Well, we got to do a show on it. I sort of wish we didn't have to, but we do. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news episode of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. This will be an Old Man Fantasy Basketball short, probably a 5 to 10 minute show, but we got to get it out there. From Shams, at Shams Sharania on Twitter, just in, Orlando Magic star forward Franz Wagner has suffered a torn right oblique and is out indefinitely. Sources tell ESPN. Wagner sustained the injury Friday night and will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. We know that core injuries, typically players don't immediately come back from. There's a long recovery time on these. I think 4 weeks would be the bare minimum. There are 2 things at play in this one. Thing number 1 is obviously the news itself that Franz is out for a month, probably more like a month and a half or 2. And thing number 2 is, when is Paolo Banchero back? Because remember, he went down with an oblique injury, and now he's finally getting close to returning at this point. Paolo's last ball game, if we're looking at just all that stuff, was October 30th, and he was supposed to be out somewhere around 6 weeks or so, and it's been 5, effectively, a little bit more than 5. Now, his was 6 to 8 weeks, so it could linger on for another 1, 2, 3, something like that, but Paolo's not that far away. So we kind of have to approach this Franz Wagner news from 2 different angles. Angle number 1 is just, again, the news itself, which flat out sucks. By the way, I'm at Dan Besbris on Twitter. I'm Old Man Squad over on the new Blue Sky. Please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for tons of fantasy basketball breakdowns. You guys know the drill at this point. We're doing anywhere from 5 to 12 shows a week, depending on how much free time I have and how many different show topics actually deserve to be talked about. Oh, brutal. Anyway, that subscribe button, that's the big one. So thing number 1 is Franz Wagner. This is a guy who has been, since Paolo Banchero went down a month ago, the number 4 player in all of fantasy basketball, behind Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The number 4 player is Franz Wagner, playing 35.5 minutes a game. He's scoring 28 points, 6 boards, 6.5 assists, 2 steals, half a block, 2.3 3-pointers, 46% from the field, 91 at the free throw line, and only 2.4 turnovers. He's ahead of the likes of Jalen Williams, Cat, Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic, Jalen Johnson. These are the other guys in the first round behind Franz Wagner. That's how good he's been lately. Yes, obviously, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Paolo is out. Franz is getting a ton of extra usage. He's taking 21 shots a game after previously. I mean, I don't know how important it is to look it up, but before Paolo went down, he was more like 17 shots a game. So the number of shots has gone up considerably. He was like a 50 some odd range guy, and then he jumped into the first round. Some of that was just his own personal growth, but a lot of that was also Paolo going down. Just opened up this colossal, giant avenue for Franz, and he stepped through it, to his credit. So the loss, there's no mitigating it. 23 shots. We just looked at Orlando's most recent ball game. 23 shots is how many Franz took in that ball game. And that wasn't even close to the biggest number lately. Although, okay, that's not fair. It is pretty close to the biggest number lately. But he's also had some games where he took like 14 free throws, so the usage was even higher in those ones. But 22, 23, 23, that's the last 3 games for him. He scored 30, 35, and 30 points. This guy was hauling butt, just crushing. There is no replacing that. If you're wondering, like, Dan, get to the point, who's the pickup here, there's not an obvious one. The big thing in the short term, before Paolo comes back, we assume that's going to be within the next 1 to 3 weeks. Somewhere in that window, 1 would be good, 2 would be average, 3 would be bad. But somewhere in there, Paolo's coming back. Jalen Suggs took 19 shots in the last ball game for Orlando, and that stands to probably increase a little bit further because he's basically the only other guy on the team right now, at least guys that are getting minutes, that can get his own shot. I'm not going to say it's a great one every time, but he can go get it. He's already on a roster. If you have Jalen Suggs, just take it all the way to the bank because he's going to be putting up colossal numbers here until Paolo comes back, and still big ones even after that. The other stuff with this Orlando team is trying to figure out who else can step into a usage role, because the third highest usage on the team in their last ball game was Mo Wagner in 18 minutes a night. He had 12 points, 9 rebounds, and a couple of assists. I don't think you need to go out and pick up Mo, but it is worth noting that if he can consistently get an extra 4 or 5 minutes a ball game, and I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case, but they're going to have to run some big lineups here in the short term, he could end up being an ad. Wendell Carter Jr. took only 3 shots in Orlando's last game. He did take some free throws. Yes, he had some foul trouble, but he really hasn't been all that aggressive lately. He might not have a choice going forward, but to take a few extra shots. Is it enough to make him an ad? Certainly not one that I would add before seeing anything else. KCP has been better lately, mostly because of extra defensive stats. He's probably not going to have any choice but to take a few extra shots until Paolo comes back. And as much as I hate to say it, that probably makes KCP an addable fantasy play. Like if we think he's going to consistently get 9 or 10 shots a game instead of 7, that puts him inside the top 100. Yes, 9 cat, he gets a big turnover bump. But if we're now talking about, 10 or 11 points, 2 3-pointers, and still 2.2 or more defensive stats, that's a guy that's 3-and-D. He does then end up belonging on rosters. Guys, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the easiest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they are happening. Plus, you can bet on everything from football to the NBA and college basketball to hockey to UFC. We already did NHL. So you head to BetOnline today. Don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Goga Bitadze, 9 points, 4 boards, couple of blocks in their last ball game. He's generally been rostered since Wendell Carter Jr. went down, and then kept the starting center spot even after Wendell came back. I'm inclined to say that this is going to give Goga something, whether it's just a couple of shots. I don't know that his value necessarily gets a whole hell of a lot better if he gets more attempts at a bucket, if they're not great attempts. So I don't know how exactly they're going to get him open, but I would think that Goga needs to probably be rostered as kind of like the third guy. KCP is kind of like an upper maybe right now. Goga is a probably. So obviously Franz, obviously Paolo. Maybe I should have shelved those guys. So aside from those two, Suggs is obviously a yes. KCP is a probably, just barely above 50-50. Goga's a little higher than that. Goga's a probably. KCP is a, yeah, I guess so. And then you get into these other guys of, okay, someone else is going to have to go score. Because if it's just Suggs and the guys we talked about, they're not going to crack 90 points most ball games. That brings us to the 2 names that I thought we should highlight as kind of like the most interesting on today's show. And that's Cole Anthony and Anthony Black, which together form a delightful Wheel of Fortune before and after category. Cole Anthony Black. Yeah, I've put that all into one word. Cole Anthony Black. I know this is dumb. I would rather, if I was going to take a shot on one of those 2 guys, it would be Cole Anthony. Black is actually more likely to play more minutes, but I don't know that he's going to do enough to get to fantasy value. Cole Anthony, we know already, if he gets 25 minutes, he'll have fantasy value. But then it's this coin flip thing. Cole Anthony, less likely to see a minutes bump, but an easier path to value. Anthony Black, a much higher probability of more minutes, but a tougher path to value. Which loops us back to kind of the overall conclusion of this. And again, that's why I wanted to try to keep this show, in the 12, 13 minute range. I don't know that there's anyone you have to go add on this news, which seems crazy because this is a team down its 2 highest usage players, and it's still not that clear that anyone is going to soak up that usage. Someone has to. Or it could be 7 different guys all doing a little bit. which would be the absolute worst case scenario for fantasy basketball. We want one guy to go in and take all of it. And that's why I'm like, fingers crossed it's Cole Anthony, because he would be a really fun player to add if suddenly it was like, all right, Cole, you got 25 minutes, and when the ball's in your hands, go do stuff. Like, get nuts. If you're in a points league, I actually think Mo Wagner is probably the fastest path to points league value of any of these guys. If you're in a category league, Goga Batadze is probably the easiest path to fantasy value. So just a quick recap on everybody that's not named Franz or Paolo Banchero, and then I want to talk about Paolo a little bit. Jalen Suggs, massive winner in all of this. KCP, medium-sized winner. He has no choice. Dude is already playing a ton of minutes, but now he's just going to be relied upon a little bit more. So I think KCP belongs on 9 category rosters. I give him like a 65% chance of being startable on a night-to-night basis. That's not a bad percentage. Goga's a little higher. Goga's like 75%. KCP's like 65%. Wendell Carter Jr. is like 40-something. Mo Wagner is probably also in that 40-something range. And then you've got the total guys in Cole Anthony and Anthony Black. What I would do with those guys, and again, like, we're not talking about game changers here. So if you're like, oh no, I missed out on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, you'll be fine. Your team will be fine. You will be fine. Because we're talking about a guy, again, that's probably looking at 10, 11 points, 2 steals, 2 threes. It's useful because typically the free throw percent is very good. He doesn't hurt you a lot, but he also doesn't rebound or pass very much. A little bit more gets him inside the top 100. We're going to be inching up on that. He'll be like the king of the fillers. Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., those guys are going to be filler-level guys. Batadze has a chance to be more like, 85 to 100 range, so just a little bit better than filler. But when we watch Orlando's next ball game, which, just to be 100% positive before I say something stupid, is indeed Sunday. They're hosting the Phoenix Suns. This will be our first look at them with no Paolo and no Franz. If Cole Anthony plays a dozen first-half minutes, I probably add him. I almost don't care what he does with them, but I can almost also guarantee that if he gets a dozen minutes and his usage is going to be in the 20s, because look at the rest of these guys. Who's doing the usage besides Suggs, Mo Wagner, and then it would be Cole? Anthony Black would be the other option. But he's a young dude. He's got a lot of issues. He's not a good scorer yet. That's kind of where you're looking. Which of those two guys, if Anthony Black plays 15 first-half minutes, I probably add him. If Cole Anthony plays about 12 and a half, I would look at adding him. If they both get there, then I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. Because, again, we might be looking at a team that has like 4 guys that slide right up to the top of the filler territory, which for me is like 115 to 150 kind of rank. And they're fine, but they're not really moving the needle all that much. You might get a bunch of guys right in that range from this Franz news. Or, if we get lucky, maybe 1 or 2 of these guys pushes a little bit higher. If you insist on taking the chance before Orlando plays their next game, if you got to do something because you got to stay ahead of the curve, my votes would be, in order, Goga, KCP, and then probably, I know this is nuts, Mo. But I really don't think I would do that. That's too many. If somebody's taken Goga and somebody's taken KCP, I probably would just wait and watch Orlando's first half against Phoenix and see where the usage falls. The usage and the minutes. Those are the 2 things you're looking at. You're not looking at the shooting percentage. Like if somebody goes 1 for 8, I'm into them in the first half because that dude's on their way to taking a ton of shots. I don't care if they're going in that one ball game. I want to know that the opportunity is there. But then we also have to think about this from the Paolo standpoint. And I don't want to spend more than a minute and a half, 2 minutes on this. If he really is coming back in a week, how much of our time, energy, and resources do we want to spend trying to figure out who the Franz fill-in is if they're not going to have any time to do anything with it? So again, I would not drop anybody of significant value. If you got some dead weight, which we almost all do, because every day someone's coming off the injured list and somebody's going on it. And this is the big one right now. Those are the guys you think about grabbing. And if those guys get grabbed before you can do something about it, we'll keep an eye out for Sunday's action. And we'll make sure to tweet about it partway through the ball game. This I will do my best to promise you. Now I'm frantically checking to see what time that game starts. That is in Orlando at 3:30 Pacific time. All right, I'll be at my kids' Little League end of season party. All right, I'll do my best. I can't watch it live, but I can check religiously, and we'll get you some data on that over on social media. Again, I'm at Dan Besbris on Twitter. I am at Old Man Squad on the new Blue Sky Network. I'll make sure to get something out from both of those locations on Sunday during the Magic next ball game. In the meantime, make sure someone's got Goga. Make sure someone, again, not Points League, 9-Cat, make sure someone's got KCP. Because you're going to get now most likely enough threes and steals combined to make him worthwhile. And then let's really lock in on this. And if you've got Franz, you're screwed. You're screwed. I would definitely sell him for top 50, by the way, if that was the return. Because I think this is going to be a 6-week absence. And I think he's going to be more like a top 40 guy when he gets back up to full speed, provided Paolo is playing and healthy at that point. And if you've got Paolo, who you guys know I don't like on the fantasy standpoint, when he comes back, he's going to be in that I'm going to do so much stuff that it doesn't matter how bad my percentages are. I'll end up being a value because he's going to be the only usage guy in town. Didn't even talk about that standpoint. Congrats if you got Jalen Suggs. He's the one guy who somehow, knock on wood, is slipping through this so far as just straight winner all the way across the board. Magic aren't. Can you imagine how good this team would be if they didn't lose their two best guys to torn obliques? That's crazy. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back with you with our next show. It's going to be a Week 8 Goofball Week preview. Happy NBA Cup, everyone. Do I have to call it the Emirates Cup? I don't know. They're not a sponsor. I can call it whatever the hell I want. I can call it the Lakers Legacy Cup. I know. You guys are going to come punch me through the computer screen. Love you all. Hang tight. You'll be okay. Tough loss. Bad news today. Franz, we hardly knew ye. I'm Dan Besbris for Old Man Squad. I'll catch you guys when I catch you. Later for now.